Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for choosing to be here. Today's our second week of sexual abuse in children, and we did our first video of the series, "What is Sexual Abuse?" last week. So if you have not watched it, please go and watch so that we understand where we are coming from. And it being the second week, we are going to do just like a fast flow, not a fast flow, the ground floor really after the foundation. And we thought of choosing online safety and sexual abuse because our world is digitalized. Everything is digitalized. How we eat, how we drink, how we dress, how we access services, intimacy, sex has been digitalized. So how do we prepare our children to live in such a world, especially knowing that there's a lot of preying and predator play? Okay, because the world still remains the world. There'll be good people and there'll also be bad people. So how best can we do this? Today I'm privileged to have Emily. For those who are joining us for the first time, Emily will introduce herself, but she's one of the best parenting and sex educational coaches around. Okay, Emily, please introduce yourself and then we go to the depth of our discussion.
Thank you, Nema, for having me today. As Nema has said, my name is Emily Ochieng. I'm a parent and sex ed coach for both parents, preteens, and teens, and also a child sexual abuse advocate and educator. So I'm
Yeah.
glad to be having this conversation with you, Nema.
Thank you so much, and I'm privileged too. So one of the biggest issue with online safety is actually misinformation. We saw this during COVID, and during any epidemic, during elections, there's a lot of misinformation, and sex is with us. Sex is in, day out. So when it comes to sex misinformation, what's the role of the online safety, especially for our kids who are just trying to, to introduce themselves in this space? How do we make sure that the misinformation as far as sex is concerned is corrected at home, mostly like by parents with our children?
That's a very, very good question. A lot of misinformation where people also tend to just share things without confirming whether the story is true or not. And some we also look at sad fishing, a lot of it on the internet, where people
Yeah.
tend to bring very emotional side, which might also be sexualized and emotional at the same time, so that they
Mm,
may gather what we call the likes and the
yeah.
word for their pages,
Mhm.
which is a huge problem online. So I think,
Mm,
especially when you have children who access online spaces, is having that candid conversations about the real world, where also this particular online space tends to depict what is not actually real for most situations. There are a few who are real, yes, and genuine and authentic, but there's also quite a huge number who are real and fake. And just
mm,
speaking about it in terms of sometimes people portray uh, they, they may portray what they want because it's what brings in people. So we know a lot of conversations angles around sexuality really pulls up the crowd.
yeah.
So people tend to sexualize those. So it's also
Mm,
telling children about how people manipulate the systems so that they
mm,
may have conversations that bring to them that may not really be right conversation. If you see
mm,
a really big topic that is online and both of you and your child are on the space, you can even
mm,
just inquire, have you seen such and story? Then they may be able to react to, you may hear if they've seen or not, and then
mm,
react to the kind of conversation. And this is
mm,
basically now for children, maybe the teens who are already on online space, you've allowed them to be on those particular spaces. It's
mm,
also about teaching the children how to consume content online consciously. So, how do we empower our children for conscious consumption of content online? Because we know,
mm,
for example, online, if I start to look, maybe I start to look at certain, maybe it's a kind of celebrity, then I'll find
mm,
all the content related, the similar content tend to appear on my page.
mm,
So content consumption is empowering a child in that you may see things that you really don't want to consume. So
mm,
one of the best way is like when you hide a particular post that is irritating for you, then it tends to remove all. It reduces the number of similar posts that may become, and also
mm,
just teaching children that online has this fakeness to it and also realness. So you have to choose
mm,
consciously choose what you want to
mm,
consume, because then what you consume it alters your thinking and your brain. So it either
mm,
makes you or breaks you. So just having those conversations with the child around those consumption, and some of these discussions really, Nema, needs to happen even before parents give their children their gadgets.
exactly.
Unfortunately, we give them gadgets, then think about what to say after. We
Yeah,
don't do the conversation before. So
it's
for parents who haven't given children their gadgets, then they really need to speak about the online space and how ugly it is.
true.
So that the child understands that there's stepping into that phase. It also has its power because there's also a lot of learning in the online space.
Yeah.
But then, so you make sure that you empower them so that they do also conscious consumption, and also constantly remind them about the conscious consumption of the
Mm,
online space.
mm,
Because you really can't control the information that is out, but you can
mm,
try as much to control the information that is within. So those are
mm,
just parts. So because when you even see, you can even make light jokes of those funny things you see online, and then it
mm,
breaks that ice with your child. So your child
mm,
can see my parents can have such conversation, and then just
mm,
have candid conversations or on those conversations that are there. And
mm,
especially for sexual conversation, also it's always remember, as we said last week, is to peg it on your values. So
mm,
correct information that is killed outside by
mm,
coming back to that really happens, but
mm,
it deviates from our value. And then even ask the child, what do you think? So when they think, then they also try to relate, yes, and explain to you why they really think such conversations deviate
mm, mm.
from their values. Yes,
Okay. Okay. It's like you've said everything.
yes, almost everything. Yes.
Okay, yeah. So when I was preparing for this, I bumped into this study. This was done by a sex educator, and it took children from all, as they tried to be as general as possible, and the age range was between 7-year-olds and 16-year-olds, and they were looking at a number of things. So I picked the ones that I thought were relevant to our discussion, and 4 out of 10 of these children have seen sexual content online. That was their first introduction of sexual content, like sex and all those things. It was online, 4 out of 10. That means 6 out of 10 children learn about sex outside the digital space, which is such a huge space. Okay, that means it's our homes, maybe it's our schools, but quite a good number. It's almost 50-50. And when you look at how the online content is so not regulated, so you're not even sure what exactly they saw. And then 1 out of 12 children, they've exchanged explicit, that means nude photos online. 1 out of every 12 children. This was quite sad for me because can you imagine the tender age of these children, and now they're actually sharing their nude photos. These kids are just trying to understand. Maybe most of them are teenagers, and sometimes this thing usually catches up with you. And then 25% have social media accounts, and they lied about their age when
The
they registered
ages.
for
Yeah.
this. 25%. So that means it's literally 1 out of 4 kids. Yeah?
Mm,
They're actually online with you as their parent, and maybe you'll never know.
yeah.
They actually see your post, and you actually see posts, and maybe you comment so harshly, kumbe it's actually one of your sons or daughters. And 3 out of 10 parents do not restrict what their kids access either through phone or TV, or yeah. So like for them, they've just given them their kids the whole world as it is. Okay. So now putting those numbers in mind, one thing that's very clear, we cannot rely on teachers to do this by themselves. As much as our kids spend so much time in school, it's the parents' responsibility to put up this foundation. Teach your kids about the online safety and about sex education. And that's why we have Emily. If you think you're stuck, you really need to contact Emily so that you are able to know the how. So, how best do we protect our children? And I want us to categorize this based on the age group of children, because we have those who have not, they're still at home, like they've not started school. But you see, they live with nannies. Most of us are very busy. You leave home in the morning, you go back in the evening. You are clueless of what has been happening. And you see 3 out of 10 parents do not even regulate what their kids watch. So how do we protect these children? And before you say, maybe before you answer that, this includes the cocomelons and the
Yeah.
Maizen crafts and all these famous YouTube content. But how many of us have actually sat with our kids to watch that?
Mm, mm,
Please answer that in the comment section. So how do we protect this particular age group? Kids who have not left home. They're at home 24/7. But of
mm.
course, as a parent, you are not there.
So very, very, what do we call it? Triggering statistics as always. But let me just, before I answer that question, take you back a little bit into the online space. We see children can be abused in different ways. So as we say, the inappropriate sexual content that is they stumble across. There's the bit about online grooming where they are seduced and made to engage in sexual ways. Then we also see they may, as you said, stumbling through sexual content and also online pornography that is also on the social media spaces quite a lot. Then they also the bit of people can manipulate even their reputation. So pick a child and totally manipulate that and create a different version of them. So those are very, and even that is part of privacy theft and identity theft, which actually occurs. So it's when you come back to the question you've asked about protecting our children, especially now those young ones who've not gone to school. So we are looking at early years in school, the elementary early years, and maybe the ones who've not started going to school. So this is the thing for parents. First, I say it starts from home, and home starts with number one, as we've said, values, and then the second one is ground rules for your family and having these conversations with everyone within your space. So be it that cousin who stays with you, be that nanny who stays with you, be it whoever, even your father and mother who have come to visit, should understand that this is a family space and we run by this. These are our boundaries. So boundaries here entails even speaking about what we watch within certain spaces, what we watch, what we don't watch, and explaining the why behind it. Because when we normalize things as boundaries, then it becomes easier. Somebody will not say, "I didn't know that was wrong." Because sometimes you say, "I found my nanny watching this," but you never stated that was not
Was
within your
out
boundaries.
of
It was outside
there.
of your boundaries. So you really have to be clear on what your boundaries is, and even your children as they grow, they really must understand what the boundaries are, and then make sure that the boundaries is not just rules of do's and don'ts. Bring the why behind it, so that even as you embrace everybody else, then they understand your logic behind having those boundaries within your spaces. And the second one, Nema, you said is a very good point. Sometimes as parents, just take the time to sit and consume what your child is consuming. You'll be
Yeah.
surprised at the content you think is not really adulterated content, and it is. So
It
just
is.
sit down, consume it. Sometimes
Yeah.
even you're advised that even before those, even the movies and the animation before they come out, as a parent, it's always good to preview. So you watch, then see even if it's okay or it's not okay, and then your children will watch such things. Then the other bit is just having parental controls in some of these systems. So for example, even if you have YouTube, I know nowadays most of us stream online in
Yeah.
our phones.
In our
So you
homes.
can,
Yeah.
yes. So what you can even do, you can even have alternative email address. Create an email address for your child, stream it online for YouTube, so that even
Mm,
when you leave the house,
mm.
it's the under 18 YouTube
Content. Yeah.
content that is seen because you've
Mm,
used the address. So yes,
mm,
we the fight has to be a parent has to take action. You can't be
mm,
sitting back and then waiting to cry out that things went wrong when
mm,
you never tried doing something. No, we
mm,
must take action, and then
mm,
that action starts by doing those things. So sit down
mm,
if you can, even if you can't preview, sometimes
mm,
just sit down and consume the content with them. Ask
mm,
them, understand what they're watching. Let them
mm,
tell you. You can even correct. Sometimes you may not have the time, but then just
mm.
ask, what is that cartoon you're always fascinated about? They'll tell you the
Yeah.
story behind it. Then
Mm,
you may try to see if there's anything that may be off that you may need to say or not
mm,
say concerning it. And then
mm,
just put controls where you can. For
mm.
example, things like Netflix. Netflix allows you to put
Yeah.
accounts that are child friendly.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Mm,
use those platforms. Even if you are streaming online YouTube, I
mm,
was given you that tip. Use an alternative email. So when you're in the house, you can use your email. When you're not
mm,
there, then you can use that alternative email for the child and then just put
mm.
it on so that the content is that for the children,
Yeah.
right? And then
Yeah.
also now monitoring other apps. So, for example, if you are a parent whose children access like computers or the phones, there are even other software. So, for example, Google has one like Google Family Link that you can
Mm,
basically install even your devices and help you to mirror and control accounts, how children
mm,
even engage in those accounts.
mm,
And then some may be bought. So, like Q Studio, you have to pay for it. So
mm,
it's worth the investment sometimes. If you know your children
mm,
are on those online spaces, you can
mm,
invest on such controls apps to help you also as a parent monitor whatever,
mm.
because you will not be there with them 24/7. You
No.
won't. So
Mm,
by taking that small investment and paying for those apps, it helps you. If you can't, then use
mm,
those the free ones, like I've said, that you can access. The other
mm.
thing is I always say give independence. Let children earn independence in phases. So, for
Yeah.
example, having that candid talk with a child. Now, this is now put the ones now maybe they've already gone to school. You're giving them phones.
Mm-hmm.
Even do contracts with children on the use of the phone. Like
It's true.
I give you a phone. If you break how you use that phone responsibly, then these are
Mm,
the consequences. So, the consequences maybe we reduce time, we withdraw, have those candid conversations with their child before you give them those gadgets. Also,
mm,
have candid conversations like there's a reason why content is said the age differences for content. There's a reason why. So there's a reason why this content is they say it's family friendly. There's one that they
mm,
say is adult content because
mm,
they know and adults can be able to determine if even what
mm,
they see, how they interpret it, which a child may
mm.
not. So
Yeah.
just explaining to children that sometimes even the movies we watch, they've been categorized because sometimes they see this one has adult content that children may are not supposed to be seeing, and they
Mm,
know that a child may not make that decisions of what to do about it. And so explaining to a child even why even those movies, not just
mm,
putting those controls in those spaces, even on Netflix, but just explaining to them why even some of those content are separated as adults and some are not. So your child comes from the point of understanding. They
yeah.
don't just don't because the commands
Mm.
of don't sometimes never work. But
Actually,
if you teach a child to embrace choices, so
mm,
they do it because they understand the why behind that choice is made, then it
mm,
makes your life even easier as a parent. And also
mm,
as parents is even having time limits control. So
mm,
my child have given you access. We even have parents who allow children, unfortunately, to go with phones, younger children, in their rooms.
mm.
What is a 7-year, 8-year old doing with the phone in their room at bedtime?
Yeah.
And they're supposed to be sleep. So it's just being vigilant as parents and putting those controls into areas
Mm,
that we need to. Somebody once said this name, and it's very true that we are in a digital space that doesn't that in the digital parenting era does not need laziness
no, it
because
does.
fast moving. It's a fast moving world. So if
Yeah.
you bring laziness to this parenting world, you're done. So it's about also trying all the ways also to improve as parents, even
Mm,
see content that children see. Sometimes
mm,
I say it is also our duty as parents to policy. So if you see an
mm,
account that is extremely giving content that may be totally off, we have a
mm,
right as a society to police that
mm,
community. I know we
mm,
live in a space where we say, shauri yake. See, it's the one thing.
mm,
But shauri yake it's maybe my child who's created a different account and then entered and then started
yeah.
uh,
Mm,
watching all this part. So it's
mm,
important as parents also for us to be vigilant. The other
mm,
part I really want to speak about, and I know some people may be on my neck on this, but it's okay. I'll speak about it
mm,
because I'm a child safety advocate. Is
mm,
sharenting. So
mm.
sharenting is where parents expose everything about their lives online. Everything, no filters, nothing, everything. And then you've done this even for your child. So if you're doing it
Mm,
for yourself, it is okay. But then
mhm,
imagine that space where this child, first you've not asked this child the consent to be
mm,
sharing about their life. So number one, as a parent, you're breaking the rule of consent because you're
mm,
already sharing things that your child has no control over. It's not
mm,
bad to share once in a while, birthdays, all those stuff. It's not bad. I'm not saying it's bad. But then
mm,
when you've made that choice for your child to live online like they've not made the choice, and they don't know if this may affect them one way or the other. Then
mm,
two, people impersonate. So I know of a story. In fact, it's currently online. One of the biggest sex exploitation scandal that was discovered in the UK was
mm,
a 13-year-old girl who was sexual exploitation is where somebody online threatens them. Either they were having conversation, they've been lured into sending one nude, then now they're threatening to doing continuous sending of those nudes. So this child, somebody had impersonated somebody else, and then she thought she knew this person. So the way the person described themselves, described every detail of her life. So she thought maybe this is somebody that I know. It may be an auntie, something, you understand, somebody I really know or very close. Then she accepted the friend request because of all the things this person was telling her about them. And
Okay.
funny, what was realized was the details didn't even come from the parents' account, it came from the grandmother's account. So the way the grandmother was sharing things, you understand? So that is why I even say it's important to have rules. So even have rules with people around you. Like for me, this is the kind of information I share about my children. This I don't share. So for example, if you don't want your pictures of your children to be shared by other people online, just be candid about it and tell them it is not well with me. For example, me, I've had time that I've told people just pull down that picture because for me, I don't share. I don't share. It's my online space. They'll choose what they want to do. Once in a while, it's okay. Those memories you want to create once in a while.
Yeah.
And then also part of it is even if you have a parent who've chosen to share, you can do this instead of sharing exactly where you are, exactly the time you are. It can easily be you do a flip. So I can share where I am a day later or 10 hours later. So that even if somebody impersonates me, then the child will know, no, that's wrong because we are not there. We were there some few days ago. So we can't be there. You're telling a lie. So it's as we go into the online space, it's for us to be really curious and then have serious, candid conversations about us and parenting, and then thinking about the love behind it. I know we say no, it's my world, wewe ngangana na yako, but
Yeah.
I want you to remember, as you say, it's my world. Have you thought about the world of your child? For me, it's okay. You can remove us who are saying don't share it, but then for you as a parent, have you thought about your own child? Like that's how, because it's your child you are putting on all those risky spaces. So have you thought about them before you tell other people shauri yako? And that is really what it's a big, it's really impersonally people really, identity theft is real.
It
And
is.
yes, and we must as
Mm,
parents make for sure that we are in the digital space. Identity theft is real, and we must protect our children in all the aspects that we can. It is our responsibility. Yes.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
so that is just the bit that I wanted to share also on that online space.
Okay. Yeah. So two things. Number one, I think as parents, we should not. I think long gone are the days where we should start. You should be giving rules as don't do this,
Mm,
don't do this. I think that phase is out.
mm,
Number one, if you just say don't, for example, don't sit there.
mm,
The next thing is why. Why
mm.
don't you?
Yeah,
What happens if I sit here?
yeah.
So you'll try. Usually, you'll just try to sit there and see what happens. Okay. So if you want your child not to do something, start by because of 1, 2, 3. I would refer
Mm,
you 1, 2, 3. Okay. I think we shouldn't imagine yourself if you have a boss who keeps on telling you
mm,
don't without
mm.
giving you.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
a very frustrating
yeah, yeah.
scenario to be in, and that's exactly how our kids
Mm,
fit in and feel. And then the second thing is the oversharing. Thank you for saying that. Oversharing for yourself as you as an individual, as an adult, I think that's fine. I mean,
mm.
it's the same thing as values. You get to choose what you want in life. However, don't decide that for your children.
Yeah, don't.
Let them get to a point where they are comfortable and let them decide. If they would want to overshare, it's still okay. But
Mm,
let it be their own choice
mm.
and not your own ideologies,
Yeah.
please. Thank you so much for bringing that up
Mm,
because I we have so many parents who prefer their life to be out there, and it's a good thing because it's an inspiration to so many, and it's usually there's always something you can learn from someone. That's what I also know. However, not all of our kids like that. And some who are bold enough will tell you, no, their kids who even don't like taking photos. They're
yeah.
just like that. You want to, no, I don't. I can be the camera person, but they'll not want to appear in the pictures, which is okay. Which is
Mm,
okay. It's their choice. Now, how does this abuse happen in the online space?
okay. So we mentioned a couple of them. Number one is people may steal their identity and then create a different version about themselves. and then that translates even to cyberbullying for this particular child. So that trail,
Mm,
they create a different, maybe a child is Vanessa, they create a different picture of who Vanessa is, and then
mm,
people cyberbully, and the whole thing, it becomes something bigger and bad for the
mm,
child.
mm,
The other part of the abuse, you see, it's in terms of the one we've called about sextortion, where
mm,
people, they come, then they may pretend they're friends. So most of the time, this is how it works. So they
mm,
prey, especially either boys on girls. So because
mm.
they've predators have this thing of really monitoring people before they
They
abuse them.
choose,
So they
yeah.
see this children is one who really is looking for attention. So maybe they
Mm,
may be missing attention, so they are looking for attention. So it starts by
mm,
such simple things as you look nice, you look nice, you look nice,
mm,
and that you look nice now translate to, oh, share that, you share that
mm,
maybe top of your bra. Then that bra
mm,
now translates to that nude that they share online.
mm,
And now once they've started sharing that nude, now it becomes blackmailing. If you don't send
mm.
this, I'll expose whatever you've already shared.
Yeah.
And it happens. And you see, most of the time, children don't even know that this kind of these things happen. So it's important, even as parents, to speak about online grooming, speak about
Mm,
identity theft. Even
mm,
let children know that people can steal identity. Let them know
mm,
that they also don't need to share everything about themselves online. They choose what they share. Let them
mm,
also know that when somebody requests such things, I saw some few weeks ago a very beautiful message from a teenager. So
mm,
somebody was trying to tell them to send the nude, and then they were like, my account has been tagged to the police. And then I was like, this is a very beautiful thing.
mm.
Yes, and then that person, the account even went off.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm,
because you see, this was an empowered teen, so she
yes.
didn't feel bad. She was like,
Mm,
my account
mm,
is literally actually tagged. Even it's
mm,
a tag to my parents' account, and it's tagged to the police.
mm,
So if you
mm.
try, it you is going to be arrested. So it's also
Yeah.
telling children that they need to be firm and speak out and
Mm,
even
mm,
say no. And
mhm,
if they in case they sent by a mistake, also
mm,
just tell them that they should not do what, like, somebody should not um they should not feel that they blackmailed into sending things when they don't want
mm.
to. Also, the
Yeah.
other part is speaking about telling children that sometimes somebody may be blackmailing them. They don't delete the account or delete the
Mm,
messages, because
mm,
then that can be used as evidence. Because
yeah.
sometimes you find you are
Mm,
being blackmailed, and what you do is you delete. So the
mm,
trail is
yeah.
also lost.
Mm,
That it can't be helped. So telling children, and also telling them to report
mm,
accounts that they feel off. Also, let's help children how they can make spaces online. Online is a beautiful space to create
mm,
network, to expand.
mm,
Not
mm,
it's also tell children you can make friends. But then when you
mhm,
make friends, if you see, for example, a person who you really don't share somebody in common with,
mm,
something off, that account is off. Or an
mm,
account that may still have many friends, even 3,000, but they never
mm.
post anything,
Yeah. I mean, it's true.
that's an off account. So
Mm,
also helping your child grow network online in a responsible way. So you are
mm,
empowering them that when you go to these online spaces, you can make
mm.
friends through see these are the ways sometimes you get beautiful networks that can even help you look for
Yeah.
people who are having
Mm,
such conversations. This is how you
mm,
look for safety. Look for a person you have several friends with. But then
mm.
sometimes also you may find abusers also share the same link to even
And
their other friends. So they may have 10 friends, but
it's
they don't
true.
know this person. So ask
Mm,
them, if it is a person you have been friending and you don't know, then
mm,
do the background work before friending them. See what kind of conversation are they having online.
mm, mm,
See, try and see all those things,
mhm,
and then before even adding that particular friend. So
mm,
so just also empowering your teenagers, even the ones who are using phones, how to use it in a
mm,
good way. Yes, so that they go empowered. Yes.
mm. And I think that cuts across. Okay, there's the teenager, but also it's for adults,
Mm,
because there are people who will just befriend you just because
yeah.
you receive friends from all over, and you're like, okay, so why do you want us to be friends?
Mm, mm,
Not everybody needs to be your friend. They can follow you, that's
yeah.
okay. But you accepting them as a friend, you really need to ask yourself why. What
Mm,
exactly do you want? Why do you
yeah.
want to be a friend?
Mm,
So as we move on, how do we recognize that our child is actually going through something online?
okay.
Because I know this, you see, sometimes you do all this, but then sometimes they fall. They are kids anyway. They fall. We also fall as
Yeah.
adults. I mean, there was a time, I think there was a lady who committed suicide because I think she shared her, it was, I think, her nude photos, and she was being blackmailed. And I think this guy threatened to put them in public space. She ended
Mm,
up, imagine, she ended up killing herself. It's very unfortunate. So before it gets there, how do we pick that up as parents?
mm. It's a good question, and we
Mm,
see that most of the time in terms of children who face abuse and don't talk about it, most of the time
mm,
it's about withdrawal and secrecy. So there's a
yeah.
lot of secrecy around that child. They want to hide, they want to hide their phones, or they
Mm,
may also be equally spending excess times online.
mm,
So excessive, and you see it's not like, as in it doesn't appear, it's not normal for them, the excessiveness or the
mm,
withdraw. So as a
mm,
parent, you can try to just normal ask, sometimes anything up, sometimes you can even bring the subject in another way.
mm,
If you think they may be going through something, you can even bring a create a scenario. Scenarios are
mm,
always best to have people open up, even if
yeah.
it's fictitious or not. The child will
Mm,
not know. So even create a
mm,
scenario of, today I had this story about this child who was having this, and then this happened to them online. Have any of your friends experienced such things? So you see, you've removed it from her burden. You're not talking about it as
mm,
a third person. They may
mm,
even talk about it, and then sometimes they even forget until you 1, 2, 3, my friend or me, and then from that you can even start seeing how you advise them on that particular line. So scenarios
mm,
are very good for
mm,
breaking up conversation. So you
mm,
can even do this, even sometimes when you just see children are withdrawn, you don't even know. Just try to create scenario, especially if they're the ones who go online, just to make them
mm,
also speak up about it. And then the other bit is always just also remember, trying to remind them that online space is harsh. The world is so harsh out there, and
yeah.
I just want you to know, if
Mm,
anything terrible ever happens, I'm here for you. So even just
yeah.
telling them and affirming that the world is so harsh, but
Mm,
if anything ever happens, I just want you to remember I'm always here for you.
mm,
If they may not
mm,
speak the first day, then the second day, you'll find a child opening up. And then
mm,
for as we said last week, children who are generally over withdrawn are children who need support, regardless
yeah.
of whichever they're facing.
Mm,
So if you
mm,
see it's a continuous trend for your child,
mm,
seek support from somewhere else. Maybe it's
mm,
that auntie who they really like, do what, feel free with.
yeah,
Let them
totally.
go have that time with that auntie.
Mm, mm,
Maybe in church you have that particular friend where when your child, they just lighten up and then say
mm,
everything about it.
mm,
Just
mm,
use that, use whatever avenue. And sometimes if you see it's over an extent, use
mm,
therapy, because that is
mm,
why therapy is there. Therapy is not
mm,
bad, and we need to start
mm,
embracing therapy. Therapy is a good
mm,
thing for both children
mm,
and adults. So
mm,
just yeah, it's also about, now that is consciousness, because for you to reach that level, it means you're a parent who is conscious about your
mm,
child world, and you're seeing all these differences that
mm,
are happening in their spaces. Yes.
mm,
So I think that
mm,
those are one of some of the ways in which you can help. So
yeah.
even if sometimes, as you said, you may not see the signs,
Mm,
just those reminders may make your child, like that reminder every morning that I'm here, regardless of
thank
how harsh the
you.
world is, I'm here for you.
Mm,
They will come and tell you about those things. They will,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Mm,
And I think that's the sweetest thing you can tell anybody, you know,
yeah, yeah.
because there are times you feel like, oh my God, I've done this. This is the worst thing that someone could ever do. So
Mm,
just knowing there is no end or limit to how much my mom or my dad can actually love me, that's
mm.
quite, actually, it's a confidence booster, if you
Yeah, it
ask me.
is. Yeah, it
Knowing
is.
that I can never do something so wrong to a
Mm,
point where my mom and my dad will not be able to listen to me. I think that's the best thing.
yeah, it
And
is.
thank you so much. That brings us to a close. And let us know if you have. Sorry, you do. Maybe you can give us your parting shot.
My parting shot is just conscious presence. Let's just be consciously present in our children's life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I love that
Mm,
conscious presence. So you're not
mm,
just there;
yeah.
you are there. Yes, thank you so much, Emily. And as always, it's a pleasure. I'm super, super charged, and I'm happy that we'll save a few lives from all this abuse that may happen online. And for everybody, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. I hope it was worth your while. And please remember to share, tag, and spread the word because tomorrow depends on us today. All right? Good. And have yourselves a good time. Bye bye.
Bye.